Hello, this is Bad Vibes. Joining me today is InterscareWifey. She will be reading 2 stories. Make sure to drop her a sub. Link will be in the pinned comment. Back in 2005 or 2006, I was renting this house that was a nearly 100-year-old farmhouse. My bedroom was upstairs, and for some reason it always creeped me out a little bit. It was as if I felt a presence there, although I hadn't had any actual paranormal experiences. One night, my then boyfriend and I had stayed up late watching TV and had fallen asleep on the couch. I had to work early the next day, so when I woke up around 3 a.m., I decided to go upstairs to bed. I gently shook my boyfriend to get him to come upstairs, but he did not immediately follow. It was beginning to get light, so when I got to bed I pulled the cover up over my head to try to block out the light so I could sleep. This house was old and creaky, and I heard my boyfriend coming up the creaky stairs and walk down the hallway to the room not long after I had laid down. I could hear him come into the room, and I felt the bed depress on his side as he sat down. But then he got up and then sat down further at the bottom of the bed. He did this, getting up and sitting down along the edge of the bed until he was sitting right next to me. I was annoyed at this point, wondering if this was some weird attempt to put the moves on me, when all I wanted to do was sleep. Then I felt his arm go across my waist, so I flung the blanket back up to ask him what the fuck, but he wasn't there. I ran downstairs to see if maybe he was tricking me, and he was still sound asleep on the couch. So I ran back upstairs, got into the blankets, and shut my eyes tight until I fell asleep. For as long as I remembered in the house, I never had another experience, although the creepy feeling upstairs always remained. I'm not sure that what happened was real. It felt real. I don't think it was a lucid dream because I hadn't had time to fall back asleep yet. First, I'm going to start by saying that growing up in my parents' house, I've always felt a sense of unease, or as if there was a presence there. My sister also felt the same way. Our house is located in an area where there used to be a lot of mines. One night, I fell asleep on the couch in the living room. The couch was beside the stairs and also facing the kitchen. I remember very clearly opening my eyes, but not being able to move. I started hearing what sounded like 100 footsteps running up and down the stairs behind me, and then it went silent. I looked up into the kitchen and saw a dark silhouette of a woman standing in the kitchen, facing away from me. I remember that she was about 5'3" and very skinny. She had very long fingers and she was crying. I then woke up to my sister playing with my dog in the living room beside me, and then everything was normal. Another time I was sleeping in my room. I'm unsure if this would be considered sleep paralysis because it only happened for a split second. I remember I opened my eyes and there was a face directly in front of mine, sideways facing me, and it was laying beside me. The face was decomposing and the mouth was wide open like it was screaming in front of me. I immediately closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, it was gone. I've always had sleep paralysis since I turned 18. I used to have it 6 to 10 times every night when I was 18 to 20 years old, living in my old military dorm room. It always started the same way with the same entity. I would always see his torso and head covered in blue and green ink tattoos, and his voice mocked me when I prayed. Literally sounded like the low-toned voices horror movies depict of evil spirits. After about 2 years, I started having sleep paralysis maybe once or twice a month. I am now 37 and live in a new place in a different state. For the past 3 years now, I have had it every month, but it's always during a full moon. I know this because I kept a log of time and dates that occurred. I always wake up to see this dark figure standing in the doorway of my bedroom. It goes away when I rebuke it in the name of Jesus. It happens so frequently that I don't get scared anymore. Well, last night was weird. I was dreaming randomly about being in a bathtub. Nothing scary. Woke up because I felt like I needed to pee, then sleep paralysis hit me. I saw a man who looked dead because his eyes were grayish, with his back towards me. I panicked, closed my eyes, and started praying. Once I regained full consciousness and control, I immediately opened my eyes and saw an 8-foot dark figure with red eyes standing in front of the doorway. I blinked several times and even rubbed my eyes, but it didn't go away. I felt so pissed because I felt violated. I began to rebuke it and it went away. I hate this. I don't know why this happens to me every full moon around 2 to 3 a.m. I have a feeling it sucks the positive energy or light out of me for whatever it needs it for. I'm so sick and tired of it. Anyone else feel this way or had similar experiences? Update. I put some small crosses at every entrance on the second floor, on each window, doorway, and staircase. My room is on the second floor directly above the living room and adjacent to the stairway. Last night I woke up because I heard a man laughing. It was so crystal clear. I wasn't dreaming because when I woke up I continued to hear it for about 3 more seconds or so. The laugh was not like someone laughing at a joke. It sounded condescending, mean, or mocking. I looked at the time and it was 2:50 a.m. It sounded like it came from the first floor where our kitchen and living room is. Wondering if it's laughing because the crosses I put on the second floor wouldn't let it pass. I also checked aside from our security cameras and no one was out there, plus I live in a very secluded area. The other night around 3 a.m. I started to experience some sleep paralysis. This is normal for me. I often have sleep paralysis and although it's uncomfortable, it isn't necessarily abnormal. This particular night, I started feeling something wrap around me, like a snake, but it felt evil. I was sleeping on my stomach and the thing was on top of me and wrapping me in its arms, so maybe more like an octopus at this point. After a bit of this, I noticed that the thing is actually just a snake-like octopus version of my friend. The body is my friend, the face is my friend, with the hands suffocating and constraining me. I wake up completely for a short period of time, but was unable to stay awake. I fell back asleep and into the paralysis again. Same shit. This also happens to me quite often. I try to fight my sleep paralysis and lose. Once waking up, I remember the friend I was dreaming of is more than likely awake because they had to work the night shift. I texted my friend and told him of my experience. When he tells me just had the strangest thing happen to him. He swears he saw someone walking and disappearing behind this small shed near the woods while he was outside on a smoke break at 3 a.m. Probably just a coincidence, but I thought I would share.
To set the scene, it was my spouse, our 2-year-old, and myself in a 1-bedroom apartment. 2-year-old's bed was close to the wall by the door. Our bed was on the other side of the room. I could see our 2-year-old, but also see the bathroom door, which was located just outside the room. It first started out with minor bad feelings. The usual walk into the apartment and feel something off. Bad vibes all around. One night while we were sleeping, I had woken to a strange feeling that our 2-year-old was up to something that she shouldn't have been. The room was completely dark, so I sit up to have a look around, and almost immediately this small shadow catches my eye. It's my 2-year-old. She's standing at the entrance of the bathroom looking back at me, and then proceeded to sidestep into the bathroom out of my view. I wake up my significant other and ask them, "Wake up. Why is 2-year-old out of their bed? How did they climb out?" She said, "What are you talking about? 2-year-old is in their crib asleep." My eyes finally adjusted to the dark, and I see my 2-year-old sleeping peacefully in their crib. My heart starts picking up pace at this point as I'm trying to figure out who did I just see walk into our bathroom. I get out of bed and rush to the bathroom ready to catch whoever it is. I flip on the light, but the bathroom is empty. It's just me staring at my reflection in the mirror. I turn off the light and head back to bed, confused about what just happened, but not too sure what I saw. Fast forward a few nights and I'm still thinking about what happened. There I am in bed next to significant other with 2-year-old sleeping sound. Again, I wake up to this strange feeling like we're being watched. I open my eyes, my body is still. I'm paralyzed, trapped in my own body. My eyes search across the room and I look at the door to our bedroom, and what I saw made my heart drop. There was this man at our bedroom door. Something about him was completely off, like he was something otherworldly in a man's body. He was more shadow than detail, and his posture was hunched like he was trying to be quiet, like he was stalking his prey. The shadow man begins to creep towards me, lurching closer to our bed. My mind is racing. I'm thinking, tonight's the night. An invader has finally entered our home, and I was the only one awake. I start planning my attack and what I'm going to do to defend my family, but my body is still immobilized. The intruder then does the unthinkable. He places one foot on my bed, then the other, and slowly starts creeping higher and higher up the bed. He's standing over me, and in the quick moment of fear, I was able to break out and kick both of my legs up towards the shadow man, hoping to catch him by surprise and ready to leap at him. As I kicked up, I felt the weight of my blanket fly off my body. I wasn't going to wait to hear the sound of a thud as he fell back. I was in fight or flight, and my only focus was on jumping on this thing as fast as possible and keeping my family safe. My violent kick wakes my significant other up in a panic. I get up ready to pounce when I see that there's no one there. "What the hell is going on?" she said. "There was a man in our room. I kicked the shit out of him. He was right there." The room is empty and dark. No man, no intruder, no sound. The silence is broken by my wife telling me to check the rest of the apartment. And after I look around, there was no one else there. I go back to bed and try to sleep, but my adrenaline was still pumping, so sleep wasn't really on the table. A few months after this event, we decided to move and upgrade to a bigger place to live, and since moving, there hasn't been any of the bad vibes as in the apartment. No shadow man, no little girl, just the 3 of us, thankfully. I have a friend, 27 male, who told me a fascinating story about lucid dreaming. He explained that his father had taught himself to lucid dream every night, a skill I was highly envious of. His father taught him how to do it when he was 15 or so, by drawing dots on his hands and looking at them throughout the day, so that eventually when he was dreaming, he could look at his hands and not see the dots, allowing him to realize he was dreaming. This is a common technique for inducing lucid dreams and something that I tried, but never long enough to actually stick to it. As a teenager, he learned to lucid dream on command, just like his father every night. He explained that it was more thrilling than any drug he'd ever taken because he had full control over every scenario. He could construct any environment of his wildest imagination. He could have sex with any person he imagined, obtain superpowers like flying, invisibility, teleport to any place he wanted, or visit alien worlds, etc. It was pure bliss, and he explained to me that he ended up sleeping all throughout the day at times because his dream world was more exciting than reality. He did this every night for more than a year or so until things started to get strange. He told me that he started to notice a hooded figure in the periphery of his vision, but whenever he tried to look at the figure, it would walk out of his field of vision. The figure first appeared very far away in the distance from him, but every night after the first sighting, the hooded figure would return to his dream, closer to him, and still always outside his central view. He could never really focus on the figure or see its face, so he couldn't tell if it was supposed to be human or something else. Once the figure started appearing closer to him, he would be filled with an overwhelming sense of dread and felt less control over his dream environment. He finally felt terrified to fall asleep, knowing that the figure would get even closer and seemingly harm him, as he sensed the evil nature of this faceless figure. He ended up fighting sleep every night to prevent dreaming and turned into an insomniac, which he still is to this day. He told me he doesn't lucid dream anymore, and I'm not sure how he unlearned it, but he hasn't seen the hooded figure since. Pretty creepy story that really stuck with me, and a caveat to trying to learn to lucid dream every night. You might still grow to regret it when things get out of your control.
So to start off, I wanted to explain that I suffer from bipolar disorder, and I deal with many sleepless nights because of it. I have experienced sleep paralysis so many times in my life since I was a little kid that I never kept count. When I was little, I was absolutely terrified. I wouldn't be able to move, and there would just be this dark silhouette of a person standing nearby. The distance would vary from each experience. The most terrifying one that stuck with me was when I was maybe 10 years old. The figure was standing on my chest, and I had difficulty breathing. I never understood why this was happening to me. Then as I got older, my fear turned into rage. Instead of wanting to scream out of terror, I was trying to let out a war cry and would try to charge the figure, but to no avail. I turned 21 and I had stayed up playing games all night. When I finally drifted off, there was a figure, but this time it was different. Again, I was filled with so much rage, and all I wanted to do was attack this mysterious figure. I managed to lift my arms towards it. It took a step back, and I woke up. That was the first time I saw it move. I then went a very long time without suffering from sleep paralysis, till my wife left me unexpectedly when I turned 29. My grief consumed me. I spent many nights sobbing without sleep. Then one night, when I finally did fall asleep, after being prescribed a powerful sleep aid, the figure returned. Except it was more aggressive this time, and it was no longer just a shadow, but it would still never let me see its face. Still filled with rage, I would try to charge it, but my movement was very slow, and it took so much effort just to lift a finger. It grabbed me by my foot, but to its shock, I grabbed its hand back. I tried to pull myself up using all the strength I had. Just before I could, it shoved its hand over my face, blocking my view. I then bit its hand as hard as I could. I completely woke up shortly after that. So far, it hasn't returned, but that was only a few months ago. I'm sure that isn't the last encounter I'll have. Every time I have these episodes, I make it a goal to defeat whatever it is, and I will grow stronger every time I face it. Given my bipolar condition, this could just be my imagination since I don't have a very good self-image. I don't claim to know what it is or what's happening to me, but what I do know is I will not stop fighting this until I defeat it or it leaves me forever. If anyone's had similar experiences, how have you fought back? To be clear, I have had sleep paralysis before, but never like this. In fact, I think this is the first time that I've truly experienced it, because usually what I do is just snap out of it. I think to myself, get angry, and I could shake off the sleep paralysis because it usually felt like an intense amount of fear, but not this time. I woke up this morning, or thought I did, and my body was vibrating. I could hear a buzzing sound. I was laying on my left side, and it was so weird. Why can't I move? No wait, I can sort of move. It was a lot of effort, but I managed to move my body slightly, but it seemed like it wanted to stay in that position because it returned to it, and the buzz sound continued. What the fuck is that sound? Aliens? Holy fuck, am I probed? I have to see, that's awesome, but I have to see. I blame seeing scenes from Signs and the abduction clip in VHS these days. But yeah, for the chunk of the panic moment, I was thinking irrationally, I'm gonna see aliens. So I put everything into turning around and looking up. I mean everything. The buzzing just keeps intensifying as I made even more of an effort to turn. So it was a really intense fight to move. To me, it was like I was in a force field and I was breaking through, teeth bare, eyes trying not to fall asleep. I was thinking, take a fighting stance, get ready to throw a punch. I used to box, so I'm thinking, if I see something, I have to punch it. In all of this, the buzzing is going insane in my head. It's like having an industrial fan going full speed on both sides of your head. And again, this is funny because in retrospect, I probably looked like I was just turning around very slowly in bed. To me, this was an epic moment. At one point, I think I momentarily fell asleep again, then woke up again. It was so stupidly intense that I was laughing in bed so much from it. This happened about 2 years ago. My father had passed about 10 years before, and I kept his watch next to my bed. I live alone with 2 rescue kitties that sleep with me, and whenever I have a scary dream, seeing them next to me calms me down, and I realize it's just a dream. So I go to sleep on Wednesday about 9:30 p.m. While I'm sleeping, I feel the watch next to me, and something in my room that keeps referring to the watch, but not in words. Then I hear it. Can you do me a favor? I'm frozen. I can't move, and I'm thinking this isn't my father, but referring to the watch was to trick me. I'm screaming in my mind, no. It asks again, can you do me a favor? I can't see, but I feel it in the room. I'm getting angry at this point. How dare this thing try to trick me into using my dad's watch? It's not my dad, I know that. I was trying really hard to move and getting angry. It asked me again, can you do me a favor? But I wake up and yell no. I look at the time and it's midnight. My cats are nowhere to be seen, and now I'm even more mad that this thing scared my poor cats. I sage the place, saying you're not welcome and to get out. I get back to sleep and I wake up still mad. I tell everyone about what happened. I'm not sure how that thing got into my house. Later that evening, I found out that a woman I work with died Wednesday afternoon and she lived alone. She was supposed to start work at midnight, the time I woke up. Also, she always used the phrase, can you do me a favor? I felt terrible knowing that she was alone, dead, trying to tell me. I had never had anything happen like that before. I felt some guilt, but when I told people at work, her trying to contact me made me feel better. Not really scary, but it did make me feel better about her death. Another girl at work found her body, since she wasn't the type not to show up without calling. It was a very sad time. Hey, this is Bad Vibes, and if you made it this far in the video, thank you. I'm going to tell 2 experiences that I had with sleep paralysis. So if you don't want to hear those, you can click off. These are the 2 experiences that stood out to me the most, and the ones that made me have the most fear. I never once saw a shadow figure or anything like that. These were also the first and last time I ever had sleep paralysis. So for the first time, at this point I had never heard of sleep paralysis. I had no clue it was a thing, didn't know what it was. And that's what made this so scary. This was when I was living with my in-laws. I was in bed, my wife sleeping next to me, and I woke up. I was laying on my back and I opened my eyes and I'm staring at the ceiling, and I was freaking out at this point because I couldn't move and I had no idea what was going on. So I'm just laying there. I could move my eyes slightly, but that's it. And I'm just thinking in my head, what's going on? Why can't I move? And then I realized I couldn't move my mouth either. I don't know how long it lasted, but I finally, I guess fell asleep. Well, fully asleep. The next day I tell my father-in-law about it and my wife, and they look at me like I'm crazy. Like that's not a thing, that didn't happen. But anyways, I eventually found out what sleep paralysis was, and I had it somewhere in that house, but since I knew what it wasn't really scary, it was more annoying. Well, the last time I had it, it was 2 days after moving into our first apartment, so the place was unfamiliar. I was laying in bed, and I had my door open, and you can see from my bed all the way to the front door. I wake up, can't move, same old, but then my stupid brain goes into thinking, what if someone breaks in? What am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna protect my kids and wife? And I'm just staring at the front door, just staring at it, and it's playing tricks on me at that point. So I'm basically causing myself to have a panic attack. Don't know if I eventually snapped out of it or I fell back asleep. I can't remember that part of it, but I just freaked myself out so bad, feeling helpless. And that was the last time I had sleep paralysis. Anyways, thanks for watching.